It's amazing how much AI shapes our online experiences these days.
It really is.
Like what Netflix suggests we watch or what pops up in our social media feeds.
Right.
It's all personalized to us.
Yeah.
At least that's what we're told.
Yeah.
But I always wonder,
Mm-hmm.
how does AI actually figure out what you like?
Yeah.
Especially when you're brand new to a platform and haven't really done anything yet?
It's a great question.
That's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Sounds good.
We're diving deep into a research paper.
Okay.
It's called Personalized Graph-Based Retrieval for Large Language Models.
All right.
And it's all about this new framework called pGraphReg.
Mm.
So buckle up, because this is some pretty next-level AI stuff.
This is a fascinating paper. One of the things that's really intriguing is how it tackles this so-called cold start problem.
Okay.
So think about this.
Okay.
You walk into a bookstore for the first time.
Okay.
No membership card, no browsing history.
Right.
Like, how does the algorithm even know where to begin, what to suggest to you?
Yeah, it's a total mystery.
Or imagine joining a new social media app.
Right.
Zero connections, no posts, nothing.
You're a blank slate.
How is it supposed to predict who you'd want to follow or what kind of content you'll enjoy?
Yeah.
This is a huge challenge that AI has always faced with new users. And you see, traditional AI is kind of like a detective working a case, but with absolutely no clues. It needs your past data to predict your future tastes.
I see.
But with no past data, it's just a guessing game at best.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like, how can AI read your mind if it doesn't even know you exist?
Exactly. And to get a sense of just how widespread this cold start problem is, the researchers actually analyzed a massive data set of Amazon reviews.
Right.
And get this, 99.99% of users in that data set only had 1 or 2 reviews on their whole profile.
Wow, that's almost everybody.
Yes.
That's a huge number of people with basically like no data footprint.
Yeah, they're practically invisible to those traditional AI systems.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And this is where pGraphReg steps in, right?
Exactly.
What makes this different from the way AI has typically worked?
So the key difference here is that pGraphReg doesn't just look at what you've done.
Okay.
It actually taps into what others like you are doing.
Interesting.
It uses something called a user-centric knowledge graph.
Yeah.
So imagine like this massive interconnected web of information.
Okay.
Every dot is a user, every line is a connection, and it goes way beyond just who you follow.
Right.
It includes things like shared interests, purchases, ratings, even those really subtle connections that the AI uncovers that you might not even realize you have with other people.
So it's like AI is playing connect the dots.
Yeah.
But on a ridiculously massive scale.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And what's really cool about this graph is that it can make these amazingly accurate inferences about your preferences, even with limited data.
How so?
Well, let's say, for example, you're browsing a music streaming service.
Okay.
You're new to the platform. You haven't listened to anything yet.
Right.
pGraphReg can look at that graph, see what other users who like similar genres are listening to, and then suggest something that you might enjoy, even though you haven't explicitly told it anything about your musical taste.
That's pretty impressive.
It really is.
But I mean, it's all theory, right? Like, how do we know this actually works in practice?
Well, to test it out, the researchers designed this series of 12 tasks. Each one designed to challenge pGraphReg in a different way.
All right, so like an obstacle course for AI.
Exactly. Some of these tasks involved generating long pieces of text. Others focused on short snippets. And some even concentrated on predicting ratings.
So they really put this thing through the ringer.
They did. And the results, honestly, are pretty remarkable.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Before we get into that, though, I think it's important to kind of understand what these tasks are.
Yeah.
Because they're not your typical AI tests. Right?
Yeah, not at all.
So hit me with some of the most interesting ones.
Okay.
What kind of challenges did they throw at this pGraphReg?
Well, one that really stands out is what they call hotel experience generation.
Hotel experience generation.
Okay. So picture this. You're planning a trip.
Okay.
And you give the AI just a couple of keywords.
Okay.
Like beachfront, relaxing, romantic getaway.
Gotcha.
pGraphReg then goes and analyzes that graph.
Okay.
Finds users with similar preferences who've stayed at various hotels. And then it actually generates a detailed, personalized story.
Wow.
About what your dream stay at that hotel would be like.
Hold on.
It's like having an AI travel agent.
So it writes a whole story about your vacation.
It does.
Based on just those few words.
That's right. And it gets even more specific than that.
Really?
Another task they threw at it was called stylized feedback generation.
Stylized feedback generation.
So imagine getting feedback on, say, a project you're working on.
Okay.
But it's written in your unique style.
Whoa, hold on.
Mirroring your grammar, even your punctuation quirks.
That's crazy.
That's what pgraph-rag was able to do.
So it's like analyzing how people like you express themselves.
Exactly.
And then tailoring the feedback accordingly.
Yeah. And, you know, they really pushed the boundaries with some of these tests.
Okay.
They even had pgraph-rag predict how you would rate a product in another language.
Wow.
Even if you'd never written a review in that language before.
That's insane.
It's almost like translating your preferences into a different cultural context.
My mind is officially blown.
Yeah.
This pgraph-rag is next level.
It's pretty amazing.
But hold on a second.
Okay.
Before we go any further, we got to talk about how they actually measured whether this thing was successful or not.
Right.
Because it's not like there's a simple right or wrong answer here.
No.
When you're dealing with something as complex as personalization.
Yeah.
So how did they know if pgraph was actually doing a good job?
So they actually used a combination of metrics depending on the specific task.
Okay.
For example, when it came to the tasks involving generating text, they used metrics that compared pgraph-rag's output to human written text.
Right.
It was almost like having a panel of judges score the AI's performance.
I see.
And then for rating prediction, they used metrics that measured how close the AI's predictions were to the actual user ratings.
So it's all about seeing how closely the AI can actually match human behavior and preferences.
That's the idea. And the results were pretty impressive.
Oh, tell me more.
Across all 12 tasks, pgraph-rag consistently outperformed all the other approaches that they tested against it.
Wow. Okay. So what were they comparing it to?
Well, they looked at methods that used no personalization at all,
Wow.
some that randomly retrieved information,
Right.
and even those traditional methods that rely solely on user history.
Right.
And guess what?
What?
pgraph-rag blew them all out of the water.
So is this it? Have we found the holy grail of personalized AI?
Well, it's definitely a significant step forward.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating is that it wasn't just good at those cold start situations,
No.
you know, where there's no user data.
Yeah.
It actually boosted personalization even when users did have some history.
Interesting. So it's not just for the newbies.
Right.
It can actually make things better for everybody.
Exactly.
All right. Before we jump into that,
Okay.
let's take a closer look at some of these specific tasks and what the results actually were.
Sounds good.
Because there's a lot we can learn from how this thing tackles these very specific, very unique challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Good.
pgraph-rag sounds like a real game changer.
It has a lot of potential.
But let's back up for a sec.
Sure.
And actually dive into some of those specific tasks that you mentioned.
Okay.
What were some of the results that really blew you away?
You know that multilingual rating prediction task we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the one where it predicts how you'd rate something in another language.
Exactly.
Even if you've never reviewed anything in that language before.
Right. That one was really a standout for me because
Yeah.
it really highlights just how powerful this graph-based approach can be.
Okay, I'm listening.
So imagine you're a business owner, right?
Okay.
And you're selling products internationally, and you want to understand how potential customers in different countries might perceive your products.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is.
It's not just about translating the words, it's about understanding those cultural nuances, right?
It is. You're absolutely right.
Like a marketing campaign that's super successful in one country could totally flop in another.
Exactly. And that's where pgraph-rag really shines.
Okay.
It can tap into the preferences of similar users from those other countries and predict how they might rate your product, even if you've never had any interactions with that market before.
That's pretty incredible.
It's like having a global focus group right at your fingertips.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it's not just for business though, right?
No, not at all.
This could be useful for like travelers who want to have more authentic experiences in new cultures.
Absolutely.
Or even language learners who are trying to understand all those little nuances of different dialects.
Yeah, definitely. It's about bridging those cultural gaps and unlocking a whole new level of understanding.
So pgraph-rag is basically like a personalized translator
I like
for
it.
tastes and preferences.
That's a great way to put it. It's about taking all these seemingly disparate data points,
Okay.
finding those hidden connections, and then using them to make really insightful predictions.
Okay. You've sold me on the potential.
Good.
but I'm curious about how this would actually work in practice.
Okay.
Could you give me a concrete example of how this could be used to personalize something I use every single day?
Sure.
Like, let's say, my news feed.
All right, so let's say you're scrolling through your news feed.
Okay.
And you're interested in, I don't know, learning more about sustainable fashion.
Okay, yeah, that's a good reason.
You haven't really read much about it yet.
Right.
So your newsfeed is probably still showing you a lot of just general fashion news.
Yeah, probably a lot of stuff I'm not that interested in at the moment.
Right. But with Pitagraph Rag, the news app could look at the knowledge graph.
Okay.
And find other users who are really passionate about sustainable fashion.
Okay.
And then it could analyze the articles they're reading, the brands they're following,
Right.
even the specific issues they're most engaged with.
So it's like finding my sustainable fashion tribe.
Yeah.
And learning from their habits.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, I like that. So then what happens?
Well, based on all of that, your newsfeed would start to shift.
Okay.
Instead of seeing those generic fashion articles,
Right.
you'd start seeing articles from more specialized publications,
Oh.
interviews with designers who prioritize sustainability,
Yeah.
maybe even deep dives into the environmental impact of the industry.
That's way more targeted than what I'm getting now.
It is,
It's like having a personal stylist, but for my newsfeed.
and it gets even better
Right.
as you interact with that content, you know, clicking on articles, sharing posts, maybe even leaving comments.
Yeah.
Pgraph Rag is going to continue to refine its understanding of what you're interested in.
So it keeps getting smarter.
Exactly.
And my newsfeed becomes even more personalized over time.
That's the idea. But, you know, we do have to be mindful of potential downsides here.
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
Like, what about that whole filter bubble thing?
Exactly.
Where you only see information that confirms your existing beliefs.
Right. That's a valid concern and something that developers really need to address carefully.
Because isn't that a risk with any personalized system?
It is. But Pgraph Rag actually has the potential to mitigate that risk.
Really? How so?
Because the knowledge graph is so vast and interconnected, it can identify what are called weak ties.
Weak ties with
So those are connections to users who have slightly different interests than you, but are still kind of within your broader sphere of relevance.
So it's not just reinforcing my echo chamber.
Exactly. It can introduce you to new perspectives and ideas you might not have encountered otherwise.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say you're really into veganism.
Okay.
Pgraph Rag might notice that a lot of users who are interested in veganism are also really interested in animal welfare.
Okay.
So even if you haven't specifically said you're interested in animal welfare,
Right.
it might start showing you some articles or videos on that topic.
So it's like gently nudging me to expand my horizons.
Exactly, without being too disruptive.
Yeah, I like that. So finding that balance between giving me what I want, but also surprising me from time to time.
Precisely.
It's like having a friend who knows me really well, but also pushes me to grow and learn new things.
I like that analogy.
And that's really the goal here, right?
It is.
To make sure that AI enhances our lives in meaningful ways.
That's the ultimate objective.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From the nitty-gritty details of how Pgraph works to the potential benefits and even some of the risks.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to zoom out for a second and ask that bigger question.
Right.
What does all of this mean for the future of AI?
That's the big question, isn't it?
What are the long-term implications
Yeah.
of having these systems that can understand us on such a deep level?
It's a great question, and one that has some pretty far-reaching implications.
I think so, too.
But before we get into all of that,
Okay.
I think it's worth taking a closer look at some of the other tasks that Pgraph Rag excelled at,
You're right.
because each one of them kind of reveals a different facet of its potential.
Okay, let's do it. What other surprises does this thing have in store for us? Okay, let's get back to those Pgraph Rag tasks.
All right.
Which one really highlights what this technology can do?
I think that hotel experience generation task is a really good example.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still not quite sure I get it. Can you walk me through it again?
Sure. So let's say you're planning a trip to Paris,
Okay.
and you tell the AI, I'm looking for a charming boutique hotel with easy access to museums.
Right.
Now, a traditional travel site, they might just show you a list of hotels that match those keywords.
Yeah, and then I'm stuck reading through all the reviews,
Exactly.
trying to figure out if it's really the right vibe, you know?
Yeah, it can be a lot of work.
Exactly.
But Pgraph Rag takes it a step further.
Okay.
It analyzes the graph, finds users who have similar preferences,
Yeah.
And then it creates this detailed narrative about what your stay at a specific hotel would be like.
Interesting.
Like, it might describe the cozy atmosphere of the lobby,
Okay.
the view from your room overlooking a quiet courtyard.
I like it.
Maybe even suggest a nearby cafe.
Oh, nice.
Where you can enjoy a croissant and do some people watching.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. That's personalized.
It is.
It's like I'm getting a sneak peek into what the experience will actually feel like.
It's about painting a picture.
Exactly.
So you can really imagine yourself there.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Let's say one of those users in the graph mentioned that they loved the hotel's rooftop bar.
Okay.
With its stunning views of the Eiffel Tower.
That's nice.
Even though you never said you wanted a rooftop bar.
Right.
pgraph-rag might still weave that detail into your story.
Wow, that's cool.
Because it understands the connection.
So it's not just about matching those keywords.
Right.
It's about understanding the bigger picture.
It is. It's about understanding what's important to you.
And making those connections
Exactly.
that I might not even realize myself.
That's the power of this graph-based approach.
It's impressive.
It is. It's about creating a truly personalized experience.
That goes beyond just, checking off boxes.
Exactly. It's about understanding those subtle nuances.
Okay, so I can see how this can be applied to travel. But what about other areas?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, for example, online learning.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Could this work there?
Definitely. Imagine taking an online course.
Okay.
But instead of getting the same generic content as everyone else, the platform uses pgraph-rag to tailor the material to your specific learning style.
That would be amazing.
It would?
Like, I'm a very visual learner.
Okay.
So I always struggle with those courses that are just lectures and text.
I hear you. With pgraph-rag, the platform could identify other learners in the graph.
Okay.
Who share that visual learning style.
Right.
And then adapt the course for you.
So how to do that?
Well, it might include more videos.
Okay, I like that.
Interactive diagrams. Or even suggest extra resources.
Like what?
Maybe documentaries.
Yeah.
Online tutorials.
That makes sense.
Like that.
So instead of feeling lost and overwhelmed,
right,
I'd actually be getting a learning experience that works for me.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about all these positive applications.
Oh, we have.
But is there a flip side to this?
Well, what about the potential downsides?
Yeah, I mean, one concern that comes up a lot is the potential for manipulation.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
If AI can predict our preferences this accurately, couldn't it also be used to influence our choices in a way that might not be in our best interest?
Yeah, like if it knows that I have a weakness for chocolate chip cookies, it could just start putting ads for those cookies everywhere I go online.
It's a possibility, and that's why it's crucial to have ethical guidelines and regulations in place to prevent the misuse of this technology.
It's a powerful tool.
It is.
We need to make sure it's used responsibly.
Absolutely, and transparency is key here.
Okay.
Users need to know how their data is being used.
Right.
And they need to have control over their privacy settings.
That makes sense. So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the choices we make.
It is.
About making sure that AI is serving humanity, not the other way around.
Well said.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Between harnessing the power of AI and safeguarding our values and autonomy.
I think that's a great point to end on.
It is.
We've covered so much ground today.
We have.
From the technical details of pgraph-rag to its potential applications, and even some of the ethical challenges.
Absolutely.
If our listeners could take away just one thing from this deep dive, what would it be?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is that personalized AI is no longer something out of science fiction.
It's real.
It's happening now.
It's evolving quickly.
It is, and it has the potential to really change our lives in some pretty profound ways.
It's exciting.
It is.
It's also kind of scary.
It's understandable to feel that way. We're on the edge of something big here.
We are.
And we need to be thoughtful about how we navigate this new landscape.
I agree. And that's why these conversations are so important.
I think so, too.
We need to be informed, engaged,
absolutely,
proactive in shaping the future of AI.
It's up to all of us.
Well said. So, to all our listeners out there,
keep those brains buzzing.
Yeah.
Keep asking those tough questions.
For sure.
And remember.
What's that?
The future of AI is in our hands.
It really is. Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Yes.
Stay curious.